It is day 87 of my 14-gallon Endler setup. About a week after my last video, I removed the empty filter that was in here. It was just circulating the water a little. I put the two small money trees back in. They're doing really well. Lots of new leaves. And then I have some small random plant cuttings. The dwarf Sagittaria is going to need thinning. I just kept adding more. And now lots of new plants have shot up, so I'm going to be removing, maybe 20% of it. I've got 5 males have colored up. I know that I'm terrible at getting fish in focus, and these guys move so fast. So there are 5 males that have colored up, and I want to say there are only 6 females in here, which I was going for a much higher ratio of females, but I've removed 9 pregnant larger females since my last video, and that is because I'm feeding them to sunfish that are juvenile bantam sunfish, and they can't eat a female that's much larger than one of the males. I now have a blue acara. That problem has been fixed. And that leads me to talking about these fish a little bit. In previous videos, I didn't share where I got them. I kept this strain of fish back in 2009, 2010. And I broke down a few Livebearer tanks. I wasn't really into Livebearers anymore, and dealing with all the fish. And so I broke down a couple of tanks, one of them being these pure Endlers. And I gave some Endlers away and some to a friend of mine who moved out of town. And last November, he contacted me and said, hey, I've been keeping your Endlers for the last 10 years, and I'm coming in town. I'd like to bring you some. So here they are, and now they're, nearly extinct, if not in the wild. They weren't when I was first keeping them. They all breed true to color, true to pattern, because they're an Adrian HD strain. And I think I mentioned this in an earlier video. The information about pure Endlers versus hybrid Endlers versus guppies that you find online, whether in articles or forums, it's all really conflicting and often not in line with my experiences with these fish. And these are the only strain of Endlers I've ever kept. Now, in the past when I had them, I had a sorority tank and a fraternity tank, and I kept them separated by sex. So I've assumed, based on things that I've read and my experience with other Livebearers, or, guppies in particular, I just assumed that I would need a higher ratio of females to males so the females wouldn't be harassed. I talked to my friend, and he said that he keeps colony tanks, and he's even had more males than females, and there haven't been any issues. And I will say, I'm not seeing the males display very much. There's been some sneak copulation happening, but they're really not harassing the females. I may remove some of these males. We'll see. Yeah, so that's just a little bit about the fish. I also put a trio of Heterandria formosa in the tank. They come out every once in a while, but they're not the little food beggars that these guys are. And one of them is really tiny, and so stays in the sag most of the time. Still not having any issues with algae in the dwarf Sagittaria, again, because the Endlers eat algae. It's summertime now, and I don't have my air on all the time. And so it gets up to sometimes 86 in the house. doesn't stay that way for an entire day, so the water certainly isn't getting that warm. But these guys do incredibly well with temperature fluctuations. It's just not an issue. I think I've mentioned that I kept them outside one summer and left them out there a little too long in the fall, and they were out there for a few nights in the upper 40s, and they were absolutely fine. They're incredibly hardy. So after removing the filter that was circulating water, I really do think these fish prefer very low current, no current. My friend who's been keeping them all these years concurred. It's one of the only tanks he uses it without any circulation at all, and then otherwise he just uses air stones. In that way, I think they're almost the perfect fish. I mean, they're just so hardy. They're small. They don't have a lot of requirements. They can take big shifts in parameters. There's no reason to keep them in hard water. I have neutral water with low TDS, about 7.1 out of the tap. I've never bothered to buffer for any of the fish that I keep. My friend also doesn't keep them in hard water. Um, they're perfect, really, if you're into live bears, because you're always going to have fish, and they're a great fish to sell if you're into doing that. I don't care to ship fish anymore. I just think it's a pain. They do great in tubs. I had so many fry after the one summer that I did keep them out, and I did sell them, and they ship really well. I can't really recommend these fish enough, and I don't remember the name of this strain, but do know that it's one of the strains that naturally occurred at Lagunas Los Patos. It's not they were not selectively bred to look any different than they did at the collection site. I can't really think of anything else. So that's the tank, and maybe someday when there are a bunch of babies, I'll do an updated video. We'll see.